said yes and you definitely wanted to say no? And it wasn't because you had all the time in the world, you had all the energy to give. It wasn't any of those things. It was because you felt guilty. It was because you felt like you would disappoint the person that asked the question. You felt guilty for disappointing them, guilty for putting yourself first, and guilty for setting a boundary. If that's you, I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear it right now. A boundary is not punishment at all. It is drawing a line in the sand to say, this is my standard. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. This is what I'm willing to tolerate. This is what I'm not willing to tolerate. And if you do these things, this is the consequence. That is putting yourself first. That is saying yes to you and also protecting your mental health and your peace at the very same time. Okay. It's permission to honor your needs without apologizing for them in advance. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about how to set boundaries without guilt, especially if you spent your whole life being the woman who always says yes to everything. Welcome back to Becoming Her. I am Stacy Crawley. I am a transformational coach, speaker, and author, and I help faith-driven women reclaim their identity, worth, and purpose, and become the woman that God created them to be. I personally believe that this topic is so very important, especially today, where a lot of us are, or a lot of women rather, we are constantly putting ourselves on the back burner. We're constantly saying yes to everything. We are screaming no. We are constantly acquiescing to other people's desires, expectations, standards, and all the things. And we are putting ourselves so far behind the line, right? Just to keep the flow, just to keep things from not escalating or there to be any conflict. And I think it's important that women understand today, now more than ever, that this is your time. This is your time to take back what you feel like was taken from you, what you feel like you have given, right? And allow yourself to set a boundary without feeling any guilt behind it. Okay. So let's talk about boundaries and how women actually confuse boundaries with being selfish. We think that because we are putting ourselves first, that we are being selfish, not really understanding that it's really putting your mental health as the priority, making your peace the priority, making your, at the end of the day, making your energy the priority. Because a lot of times when we allow people into our space, into our energy, into our mental, space, when we don't even have the capacity for it, when we don't have what we need, a lot of times we're pouring from an empty cup. And so setting a boundary, it's really about putting yourself first, but not in a selfish way. All right. It's about loving yourself. It's about saying yes to you and being okay with saying no to someone else. Okay. So we're going to be talking about number one, why saying no feels so hard. And I have my notes here. So when we say no to other people, it's hard because, and it could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your brother, your sister, your best friend, your husband, your kids, whatever it is, it can feel like you're disappointing them. It could feel like you have the capacity to do it, right? And you may very well, you might have the energy. You might be bouncing off the wall with energy. You might have all the time in the world, but you don't want to do it. And you fear disappointing them. You desire to be liked. When we want to people please, when we want to be validated by others, we put ourselves in very precarious situations, right? And not in a bad way. I mean, like in terms of not allowing ourselves to really think about it and say, gosh, do I really want to do this? Do I want to be in this space with this person? Do I want to listen to them complain to me about whatever's going on in their life? Do I want to do that? Right. And sometimes because we want to be liked so much, we allow it. We allow things to happen. We allow it to go on because we want them to like us. We don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't like me. They have a problem with me. That issue of conflict and wanting to avoid it, right? We fear conflict. I just talked about that. So fearing conflict, we don't want to have a situation where that person, we think that that person is thinking a certain way about us or what have you, because sometimes we will create a whole narrative in our mind about something and it is not even the case, right? It's not even what we think it is. Um, a lot of the time, actually, right? Our identity is tied to being helpful. If you have grown up in a situation where you have been conditioned to feel like I'm only worthy, I'm only I only bring something to this situation if I am being helpful to someone. And that could be farthest from the truth. Okay. And then your people pleasing patterns, right? Not wanting to anger anyone, walking on eggshells, all those things. Okay. That's why it feels so hard. And, I went through a whole period in my life where I felt like I had to consistently just be there for people. I felt like I had to always be the dependable one, the responsible one. And granted, those are just a part of my character, but I think some of that is also conditioning. And it's also family. It's marriage, being a mom. It makes you feel like, if I don't do this, um, that people will feel a way about me or they're not going to want to be around me. It's all the people pleasing stuff. And I had to shed all those things. I had to do a lot of prayer. I had to go through some really dark times to understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what people think of me. It doesn't matter what it is it doesn't matter at the end of the day because they're going to continue to live their lives, whether you do for them or not, because people will drain you. People will drain every bit out of you and then move on to the next person. So it's up to you. It's up to us to just stay there, stay the course and stand our ground and say, listen, this doesn't work for me. And be okay with them not being okay with it. I think that's another thing is that we think that because someone gets upset about something that we have to be the one to make it right, to make them feel better. That's their stuff. That's their stuff. After you've made your decision, that's their stuff to figure out. Okay. So many women aren't struggling with boundaries. They're actually struggling with what they think boundaries mean. And we just talked about those things. All right. Number two, boundaries are not selfish. We briefly talked about that. Boundaries actually protect relationships, believe it or not. When you create boundaries within relationships, and like I said, it could be family relationships, marital relationships, friendship, relationships with friends and things like that, relationships with your kids. When you set boundaries, people like structure. Not a lot of people, but when you put structure in place, it just sets the standard for what is expected and what is not expected. And so when you have those parameters in place, it's all good, right? Because you know that if you're asking me to do this and I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. If my kid come to me and say, "Mommy, I want to go to Five Below," and I say, "Mommy's tired right now, and we're not going to go. Maybe we'll go, tomorrow and another day." They have to respect my boundary. And if they don't, they want to throw a tantrum and cry, then guess what? That's on them. That's what they got to deal with. If my mom wants me to call and do something for her or, what have you, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And I'm okay with that. I've had to learn to come to terms with the fact that people have their own, that's not on me. If I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. Now, if I'm feeling generous and I'm feeling like, okay, I have the capacity to do this and I feel like doing it, then I'll do it. Now, of course, if there are emergency situations, those are different, right? Of course, right? But generally speaking, yeah. Boundaries create honesty. There's transparency there. So you know what I need, you know what I don't want. We know each other, right? So when the boundaries are set, there's full transparency. There's nothing deceptive. There's no trying to think about it and trying to figure out whether or not this person is being forthright. No, it just is what it is, right? So there's the honesty for you, right? Boundaries create sustainability. So if I have a relationship with you, we're able to sustain this relationship. We're able to go the long haul because we understand each other. We understand what where we are in our relationship and where the line in the sand is drawn and what we're not going to do and what we're going to do, right? So it allows your relationships to flourish and to continue to move forward and not to wither off. And I mean, granted, there are times though where we have seasons of friendships or seasons of relationships, period. Some relationships, they last because they're supposed to, and that's what God allows, and that's a divine assignment, divine friendships, I say. But then there are some where it's just like, yeah, our season has passed and we are done here. Okay. So, like I said before, you cannot pour from an empty cup forever. You have to draw the line in the sand. You have to be vocal about what you want. You have to be vocal about what you are willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, and stand on that. And then also offer consequences if someone goes beyond your boundaries or violates your boundaries, rather. Okay. So, what guilt is trying to tell us is that guilt doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't, right? Sometimes guilt means you're doing something new, something that you're not used to, something that you have not experienced before. I remember when I first started setting boundaries with people. So my mom, she tends to need help with certain things, right? So I would help her. And there came a point where I was just like, I have 4 kids. I have a lot going on. I can't run your life and manage my life with my kids as well. That's just not functional for me. It doesn't help me. It's a lot. And so I had to come to terms with saying, hey, Ma, I can't do this today. I can't do this for you. And she would get so upset. She would get so upset. And it was something new for me. And so I was very uncomfortable. And of course, when my no was, no, I can't. But now it's no, I can't. But in the beginning, because it was so new, because I was setting up boundaries, because I was so conditioned to feel like I had to be so helpful all the time, I it was hard. It was so difficult. It was so difficult. But over time, it gets better. It gets better. And the guilt slowly but surely starts to release itself and to kind of go away once you get used to setting boundaries. Growth often feels uncomfortable. Anytime you're being stretched in the area in your life, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be difficult at first. It's going to be hard. Try to understand. I want to make sure my mic's still on. It's hard to understand what's going on. Why is it happening? Because people will start to show you who they really are when you start to set boundaries with them. When you have been doing things for people for so long and you have been just going along to get along and you start to change up, oh, you become enemy number one in their book because now you're not doing what they want, right? So be aware of that and know that things will start to shift and change, but it's for your good. It's for your good. I can definitely attest to that. When I tell you the level of peace that I have right now, the level of joy that I have in my heart, knowing that I have the ability to set a boundary and stick to it and move on, I can't even explain. It feels amazing. It feels absolutely amazing. The guilt you're feeling may simply be the discomfort of breaking an old pattern. Okay. So, like I said, we have the conditioning, the people pleasing, the pattern that we have been living our entire lives. And when you're starting to break a pattern, when you start to come against any pathology that you have been so conditioned in your life to follow, whether it's been passed down from family and what have you. It's hard to break those patterns. But when you finally do, it's so freeing. It's so freeing. Your mental health will improve. Your level of peace will improve. Your confidence will improve. Okay. So many benefits to it. So let me give you about a few practical ways to set boundaries when people come to you, or when you're getting ready to set a boundary with someone, like I said, your child, your spouse, family, friends, what have you. These are a few examples that you can say. I'm not available for that right now. End of discussion. Let me think about it and get back to you. There were no plans made. There was nothing. You left it there to say, let me decide on this and I'll get back to you. You're putting yourself in a position of control, right? That doesn't work for me. Period. Sometimes people will want to bait you into an argument, or try to get you to see things their way, especially when you start setting boundaries with them. And less is more, I'll say. So if they say something and you say, hey, that doesn't work for me, leave it at that. Leave it at that. Because they will drag it out and try to get you to a point where you feel so guilty that you'll just say, okay, I'll do it. Don't. Another one is, I'm unable to commit to that. And my personal favorite is no. No. Like I said, no long explanations are required at all. You speak your piece, you move along. And if they can't handle it, that is on them. Period. It has nothing to do with you. I want you to remember who you are becoming. Okay? When we go through seasons in life, God has taken us through our own individual paths, our own individual journeys, and He is constantly molding us, shaping us, and helping us to become the best version of ourselves and to ultimately become the woman that He has created us to be. All right. So boundaries support the woman you're becoming. Boundaries will protect your peace. I said so many times, if it's costing you your peace, it's costing you way too much. So boundaries protect your peace. Boundaries help you show up fully as yourself, fully, confident, in control, strong, all the things. Okay? The woman God created you to be doesn't need to abandon herself to make everyone else comfortable. I'm going to say that again. The woman God created you to be doesn't need to abandon herself to make everyone else comfortable. If you've been carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations, I want you to know that you are allowed to say no with a period behind it. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to protect your needs. And doing so does not make you selfish at all. It makes you a healthy person. I always say this, and I will continue to say it. You are not broken. You are becoming. Okay? So I want you to tell me in the comments, what's one boundary you know you need to set or strengthen for yourself in this season of your life? And I want you to share it in the comments. And if you are ready to reconnect with yourself, you feel like you're in a position where you have lost yourself, you have lost the woman that you know that you are, the woman that you know God created you to be, but you don't know who she is anymore. You don't know what your purpose, you don't know what your worth is. I want you to download my free self-discovery guide, okay? It will help you to rediscover who you are, rebuild your confidence, and take the next step toward becoming the woman God created you to be. I'll be sure to link that as well down below. I am so grateful for the journey that I have been on, walking this journey for the last few years of healing and going through divorce and going through family situations and just healing understanding that the old patterns of people pleasing and shrinking myself and trying to fit into molds of other people and trying to not live out loud in terms of, 'cause I have a bubbly personality, right? And so just shrinking myself so far down into something that's unrecognizable. Going through this journey the last few years of healing, and whew, it has been a lot. It's been a lot. But at the end of the day, believe me, I know my worth now, and I know who God has called me to be. I know my purpose, and it's to help women just like you to know exactly who you are and know who you are through the eyes of God, okay? And how He sees you. There's so much that you have in you, but the first step is rediscovering who you are, understanding your worth, building that confidence, ultimately walking boldly in your purpose. And that's what I am here to help you to do. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.